Kevin Rudd will tell you it's all because of his economic and political artistry. But the reason why we have avoided a recession, if we avoid a recession, is because of the legacy of Paul Keating, supported by Bob Hawke, and of John Howard. I suspect that we have been more significant to the history of the world in the last 7 or 8 years than perhaps at any previous time, and that was only possible because of the work of Keating in economic reform, and then Howard in consolidating and extending that economic reform, and I think also helping Australians to believe in themselves. In terms of lasting achievements, I think Keating's biggest triumphs were as Treasurer rather than as Prime Minister. I think his agenda as Treasurer struck a chord, not necessarily in the general community, which was never especially enamoured of economic reform, but amongst those who think about public life, economists, academics, fellow politicians, journalists. And I think Keating, with Hawke's support, did build many of the pillars of our present prosperity. I think Howard's legacy I think will be a little broader, because I think that there were the economic achievements, but I do think Howard's greatest achievement perhaps was to end some of those divisive debates that we had when Keating was Prime Minister.
I think Keating's economic achievements as Prime Minister were greater than what I'd realised. In particular, national competition policy, the end of centralised wage fixation and the creation of a system of enterprise bargaining in the IR system, the foundations for central bank independence and an era of low inflation, and maintenance of the tariff cuts despite the deepest recession since the 1930s. So I think what Keating did as Prime Minister was to enhance and defend the economic legacy that he and Hawke began in the 1980s. I think that was a very significant achievement.